Hello there gamers, this is Frags, and as you all know, Starfield will be launching on September 6th for Xbox and PC. Lots of folks are looking forward to it, including yours truly. And while we wait for it, perhaps we could try out these space games to get you in the mood for Starfield. Here's 6 games to play before Starfield releases. Please note that there aren't that many space-centered RPG games, so not all of these are RPGs, but they have similar themes in them. So without further ado, here we go. The most obvious game is, well, another RPG set in space, and Outer Worlds by Obsidian Entertainment is a fantastic game that, while maybe not as epic as the open world fare we're used to with Bethesda, or even compared to other Obsidian games, it's just the right length for you to have a good story and a blast to play. I don't think the Outer Worlds was the most balanced in terms of playstyle. I just went for a more sniper type character and just got through the story with moderate challenge. You know, RPGs take so long to go through, but the Outer Worlds is one of those games you could actually finish without dedicating like half a lifetime to play. It's a story about corporate greed and corruption with themes of freedom, and well, the ending did leave quite a bit for a sequel to carry on forward, which is why I look forward to the Outer Worlds 2, which we have not heard much of. Well, I suppose because Obsidian has been pretty busy with a bunch of other big projects. Another space-based RPG are the Knights of the Old Republic games. Interestingly, the sequel, KOTOR 2, was also developed by Obsidian, while the first was by BioWare. Obsidian and BioWare to some extent has had a knack for creating great memorable characters, and both these games have plenty of them. While KOTOR may not have been as action-focused as later BioWare RPGs like Mass Effect, its combat system is more RPG-like and slower paced, which may not be to some people's fancy, but it gave you a lot more options to take your main character in any way you wanted. One of the cool aspects of these games were that you could make your character go the dark side or the light side, good or evil, both playable with different types of endings. Do take note though that the first KOTOR does not support modern resolutions or ratios, so you might be stuck with big black letterboxes unless you use some unofficial workaround. KOTOR 2 though does have like 1080 resolution though, so just take note about that first game. Okay, hold it! If you like this video, don't forget to smash that like button and just poke that subscribe button a little. Once will do. I delve into strategy games like Total War and sometimes get into RPGs. I also talk about the latest gaming industry news that really matters. So go on, give this humble little channel a sub. It helps us out a lot. Thank you so much, and now back to the video. As I mentioned just now, of course no list about space RPGs will be complete without mentioning Mass Effect, EA's epic space opera with a bunch of colorful characters that go around the galaxy getting down to business and getting jiggy with each other. You're probably going to need to put in many dedicated hours to finish this whole trilogy before Starfield, but it's probably the most well-known space RPG to date. The funny thing about the Mass Effect series is that the first one was a very different game. Mechanically, it was a lot more of a multi-party RPG with a more pause and play style combat system. This was not popular, I guess, but was probably a lot more palatable to old school RPG fans. You know, the types that like the original Dragon Age? Yeah, you can count me in as one of them. But the later games went in a more action route. The thing is, BioWare was looking for, no pun intended, a mass appeal for Mass Effect, and hence made it feel a lot more like a third-person shooter. So in some ways, really, you weren't playing these games for the combat anymore. Just get on with it and maybe get it on with your party. The story is pretty rad. Just play it for that at least. In Mass Effect, you had a ton of interesting morally questionable characters. Even their side quests were more interesting than the main quests in many lesser RPGs. So while the systems and the filler planetary landing crap, remember that, weren't so great, the story is some top tier stuff. Elite Dangerous is a big, massive game. It's not an RPG obviously, but a space sim that went for a slightly more realistic space game feel. And to be honest, it's one of the most immersive modern games I've played in quite a while. It has tremendous amounts of details. Can you imagine like the planets actually orbit in this game? And the sound design, like going in and out of hyperspace with the frame shift drive, there's this cool booming sound. I know this is some nerdy stuff here. While the missions in the game aren't as interesting compared to an RPG, a lot of it is like go here, get that, or transport X number of space camps to another system. The thing that makes Elite Dangerous special is you could basically go whichever way you wanted. A bounty hunter who hunts pirates, a trader who finds the best profits in the galaxy, or side a faction and take on their war. Or you know, just stay neutral and you do your thing. If immersion in space is something you dig, it's definitely worth checking this game out. Just keep in mind the Odyssey expansion pack with its on-ground shooty bang bang gameplay, that I mean first person shooter gameplay, is not a must buy. That expansion has got how should I say, some issues even up to this day. It's not really that interesting and a bit of a performance hog really. Stick with the space stuff and go with the base game, which now includes the previous expansion Horizons. You know what they said about Starfield before the whole gameplay reveal? That it's just Fallout in space? That may not be a fair assessment really, but what better way to prepare for Bethesda's next game than to play their previous one? I'm skipping Fallout 76 entirely by the way for some obvious reasons. Fallout 4 maybe didn't really have the best story. I mean, everyone knows that the best Fallout is New Vegas, which was developed by Obsidian. Oh gosh, I realize I'm a bit of an Obsidian fanboy in this video. But what we get out of Fallout 4 is to experience the previous iteration of gun combat and base building. These elements in Fallout 4 will hopefully be much more improved in Starfield. From the combat we've seen so far, Starfield will be more shootery. I'm not sure if it will have any of that pause and shoot system like the WAT system in Fallout 4 rather, or Fallout 3 and Fallout 4 had that. Well, since Starfield is an entirely new IP, there is no holdover or legacy issues from past games like Fallout has. So playing Fallout 4 really will give us a better idea of how big of a leap Starfield is when we get our hands on it. If you like space to be more colorful than Elite Dangerous, this game, you can't go wrong with this one. No Man's Sky was released 7 years ago and boy, what a story it's been, with countless free updates. And we're not talking small updates here, these are big game-changing updates that add so much to the game. No Man's Sky today is a very different game from the one we saw at launch. They've managed to reverse the utter disappointment gamers had when it was released to something of a bright and shiny gem of a game. A fully fleshed out playground of a procedural universe where you can choose to unlock the secrets of the universe, fly to your heart's content and discover new planets, or just build your own little home in your own corner in space. If Elite Dangerous was a more serious space sim, No Man's Sky is like the Minecraft version of space sim. More emphasis on exploration, survival, and even crafting. And it's still being updated. It just got like a massive update last month. Great support from the devs. So there you have it. These are my picks for games to play before Starfield comes out. There are probably more games than these, so tell me in the comments what are you planning to play or are playing right now before Starfield to prepare yourself for the awesomeness of the Starfield universe. This is Frags signing off and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.